Ergonomically, you can sit on this bike and be like, man, this is a comfortable place for me to sit. You're going to enjoy the hell out of it. Ready to rip it? Rip it again. So here we are, Kawasaki Z650. Doesn't feel much bigger than the 400, although it seems to be a little bit more comfortable. In neutral, seating position seems to be about the same. The clutch, the brake, everything does feel a lot better though. Feels a lot more manageable, feels a lot better. The transmission feels a lot better. Reminds me of the Z650 RS. Lovely little bike. This one does feel a little more naked, about the same seating position though. Suspension is a little soft. That's understandable. Again, 300-pound man. There we go. Just giving it a whirl. See if it takes 300 pounds. There we go. But overall, flat-footed quite easily. The feet controls feel a little bit better. Maybe I'm just getting used to this kind of higher rearward foot control. Adjustable clutch and brake. Bike feels decent. Let's see how it goes. I believe it is a V-twin. Here we go. Let's go ahead and ride it. Get it, see how it goes.
You're ready to ride. Let's see those thumbs in the air. Ninja, what's up? Ninja, what's up? You ready to ride, bro? All right, we're looking good. They're all yours, John. With the live riders, here we go.
Here we go. Still a little bit of a dead spot on the accelerator. Not a huge fan of that. Very tight feeling. God, I really have to lodge myself into the tank here. It doesn't really allow much room for my legs or my body. Feels like a tighter package. Honestly, the Z400 felt a little roomier on my knees than the Z650. The Z650, I can feel it's a longer chassis and I'm drawn out a bit more. The clutch feels better, the brakes feel better. Still not 100% sold on it. I still preferred the Z650 RS over it, but we'll see how this one rolls. And here we go. Naked Z650 as we go. Plenty of power. Much more power than the Z600 or the Z400. Still not a whole crazy amount of power. Mirrors are still absolutely terrible. Let's see if we can adjust these suckers. And we can. Do they get any better? Not really. Mirrors are terrible. Okay. Clutch feels much better than the Z400. Much better quality. Brakes feel more solid. They're more accessible. The actual rear brake lever is also accessible on this bike, at least more so than the Z400. Probably just need an adjustment, bring that rear brake lever down a little bit, and it'll probably feel about the same. I don't feel as cramped as I did on the Z400, but I do notice I have to tuck into the bike, especially behind the tank more. It's kind of pre-formed for a certain body style, and I'm going to be honest, that body style is not mine. It is light, it's chuckable, you can get into it pretty easily. Seems like fun. Not a bad bike. The transmission is nice and positive. No quick shifter in it right now. Yep, nice positive crisp shifts, which is what I was hoping for over the Z400. Much better transmission, much better hand and foot controls. Still a little bit of latency on this clutch. I noticed it like the Z400, maybe it just needs a little bit more adjustment. But at least it is adjustable, unlike the Z400s where you'd have to go and get new levers and everything, which I'm not sure if that's something you're willing to do or not willing to do, if you're going to go with shorties or it's something you normally change, or you're just looking to ride the bike the way it is. Not bad though. Feels light, feels crisp. Definitely allows you to get a little sideways. It feels very stable though. It likes to tip in. Yeah, I definitely like the hand controls on this, and the hand and foot controls are much better. Seating position, I'm not a big fan of. It's still way too small for me. Maybe the 900 would fit me as far as chassis size and tank and whatnot, but for a person who's maybe 100 pounds lighter and or 50, 60, 70 pounds lighter, and you know, thick thighs save lives, but they definitely hold on. They definitely don't hold on to the Ninja z650. There we go. I am getting a lot of that parachuting, the same as the Z650 SR that I'm getting on this bike, and it's really kind of pulling me back with the wind. I feel like I'm a big parachute. It felt a lot better on the Z400. I don't know if that was the positioning, the bike, the fairing, the aerodynamics, but it did feel, you know, more controlled. I'm not too sure if the Z900 will have the same effect. I know it's a little more fairing intense in the front. Hopefully it'll be able to give you a bit more protection from those kind of elements. These are naked bikes, but even so, on a naked bike, if you can lean a little more farther forward or a little farther back, you can kind of deflect some of that wind back and forth, and it makes sense to do things like that. Or it makes sense to change the position so that way you're able to accommodate your type of riding better without, you know, picking up too much drag. And on this bike, I feel the drag. I'm going 45 miles an hour, and I can feel it pretty heavy. Transmission is solid though, much better than the Z400. Let me see what happens when we come to the stoplight and I put it into first and see how that bottom first step, that hard first, that stop is. That's what's going to tell me how good the transmission is. I don't know how good it is, but that's, you know, that's one of the indicators for me. Is if I can wrap it down to 4 first, oh, that's a nice solid stop at first. I like that. Okay, I like that much better. As far as for my friend Easy, this is probably a better bike for him to look at. Would I personally recommend it? Still, no. I think it's too small, too tight, too compact. But overall, it is a fun bike, and it seems to have plenty of power. Plenty of power. This definitely has highway power. This has street power. It has moving power. It feels linear, the power, but it grows. Like, it's got a good torque band, but I feel like it's going to be more up on the top end. This thing revs out to about 9 grand, 9,500. When we get to the highway portion, I'm going to rip it up and see how it feels up there, and see if it really just feels like it keeps pulling up in the power band, or it's kind of wasted above 7,000 RPMs. So far now though, pulls and feels great. Honestly, for a daily commuter, I recommend this. If you like the Z400 and you want a little more power, this is most certainly up the route. If you prefer the feel of the bike itself, the chassis, the tank, the weight, this is a very direct comparison to the Z400. If anything, it just feels like it's got a little more power under it. Okay, this guy's gonna go. Let's test how these brakes are, huh? Coming in a little hot. Suspension dive is quite nice. It doesn't get excessive. It doesn't lose it too much when you start to get on those brakes progressively. Honestly, liked it. It wasn't bad at all. It feels great stopping. I love the controls. Hand controls, foot controls, transmission, engine feels great. Body positioning, terrible. The molded weird tank leg recesses, terrible. But the bike itself, the way it functions, is fine. If ergonomically you can sit on this bike and be like, man, this is a comfortable place for me to sit, you're going to enjoy the hell out of it. If you sit on it and you feel like you're being put inside of a Kinder Egg, it's not your style of bike. And personally, I'm in a Kinder Egg. Man, this Morgan & Morgan's flying for the people. Okay, we're coming up to that over the hill, then we're going to make that left, and then we're going to make a right and then get on the highway. Oh, there's the left up ahead. Here we are. Let's see how it feels in a turn. Not bad. The guy in the Vulcan's definitely struggling. Okay, we're coming up to the highway portion. Last bit before we strip it off to the right, and then we're going to cook it down the highway and see how it feels. After a quick shifter, honestly, every bike should have a quick shifter. This thing would benefit from it greatly. It would feel like a wonderful bike, especially with this type of transmission, the way it feels. I think a quick shifter would be a huge addition. Coming up to Industry Road, we're going to hang a right and then hook it onto the highway real quick. It's just one exit, so it's not a big deal, but let's rip it and see how it feels, huh? Not bad. Leans over, has some fun. Look at that. Let's crack it. Has some power. It gets up there. You know, it moves. It feels good. It's definitely good for the highway when I'm at 4th gear right now. Yeah, this definitely can pull up to 100 and something miles an hour. Not bad. It has highway power. Let's get on the highway here. Not a tremendous amount of highway power, but it can definitely get around. 5th gear, that wasn't bad for a 5th gear pour. Maybe in 4th it'd feel a little better, but it didn't feel overly tremendous, like, man, this fucker moves. Which I wasn't expecting from a 650, but it feels adequate, which is what I wanted to know. Having my back foot or my foot slip off all the time off that back brake just because of the feeding position, I really don't like that. You know, I gotta cramp my foot to get it up, get it on the brake pedal, push, and then cramp it up to get it, slap it off. It's a better position than it was on the Z400. The Z400 felt too high, but still for me it is way too high. I'm just not a big fan of these foot back feeding position kind of sport bike things. You know, even on the KTM 390, it just didn't feel as intense to ride, as compacting, as limiting. Here we go. That pretty much concludes the ride here for the Z650. Was it my ultimate choice? No. Do I recommend it for easy? No. Is it a bike for smaller people? Most definitely. Most definitely. It's not because the engine is not there. I mean, the engine can pull you around easily. It's this chassis, the design of the tank, it just feels like it's made for somebody half my weight, which is understandable. You know, I'm a big guy on a tiny bike. It's like a bear on a bicycle. It just doesn't make sense sometimes unless you got a really big bicycle or a really tiny bear. So let's see how that works out. If he sits on it, ergonomic, he's like, man, this is the place I want to be, then yeah, that's the bike for him. It has the engine, it has the transmission, it has the touches, the controls, it has the styling, the weight, and what she likes it. Not for me, but for somebody who sits on it and likes it, go for it. Let's see if we can get a shot of Easy. Look at that man. Look at that man. Easy, looking good, son. Looking good, looking good. Man, he's working them. He's working that clutch.